Dear boys, let us continue the third part of your chapter number 3. Name of the topic is In the Earliest Cities. Boys, in the second part of the chapter, you have learned about new crafts in the city, then in search of materials. Now, let us see food for people in the cities. While many people lived in the cities, others living in the countryside grew crops and reared animals. See here, while many people they lived in the cities, others living in the countryside, they used to grow crops and reared animals, domesticate animals. These farmers and herders supplied food to craftspersons, scribes, and rulers in the cities. So these farmers and herders, whatever crops they grew there, they used to supply those food to crafts persons. Scribes means persons who copies out documents, especially one employed to do this before printing was invented. And rulers in the cities, to them that means they used to supply it. Supply it means they used to supply food to them. We know from remains of plants that the Harappans grew wheat, barley, pulses, peas, rice, sesame, linseed, and mustard. We know from the remains of plants. What do we know here? That the Harappans they used to grow wheat, barley, pulses, peas, rice, sesame, linseed, okay, and mustard. A new tool, the plough, was used to dig the earth for turning the soil and planting seeds. So they used a new tool to plough the field in order to grow crops. So with that plough, they used to dig the earth for turning the soil and planting seeds. While real ploughs, which were probably made of wood, have not survived, toy models have been found. So real plough have not survived. It is not found now. Toy models have been found. Here toy plough you can see the picture it has given here. Okay, you can see here was a toy plough. Today in many farming communities only men use the plough. We do not know whether the Harappans followed such custom or not. There's no idea regarding that. Which that means at present day we can see in many farming communities only men used to plough the field. So it is unknown whether at the time of Harappans such customs was followed or not. As this region does not receive heavy rainfall, some form of irrigation may have been used. So this region, as it does not receive sufficient rainfall, heavy rainfall, so some form of irrigation means to supply water for growing crops, may have been used. This means that water was stored and supplied to the fields when the plants were growing. Irrigation means here, okay. It means what? That water it was stored and used to supply to the fields when the plants were growing. The Harappans reared cattle, sheep, goat, and buffalo. Harappans they used to rear cattle, they used to domesticate cattle, sheep, goat, and buffalo. Water and pastures were available around settlements. Pastures means land covered with grass and other low plants suitable for grazing animals. That is called pastures. So water and pastures were available around settlement and those places where they are settled, they used to live. So water and pastures lands were available there. Water for themselves was, and by the way, for animals, and then pasture lands for grazing animals. These were available around the settlements where they were living. However, in the dry summer months, large herds of animals were probably taken to greater distances in search of grass and water. But see, during summer season, okay, large herds of animals, so large groups of animals were probably taken to far distance places in order to search of grass for the animals and for water. They also collected fruits like bear, caught fish, and hunted wild animals like the antelope. See, they also used to collect fruits like bear. Bear it is a type of fruit. And they used to catch fish, okay, and hunted wild animals like the antelope. Antelope means it is a type of deer. So food for the people in the cities. Here you have learned. A close look. Harappan town in Gujarat. The city of Dholavira was located on Khadir Bet. You can spell it as Bet also. In the Rann of Kutch, where there was fresh water and fertile soil. Rann of Kutch, Gujarat, we have to say. There was fresh water and fertile soil. Okay, there is city of Dholavira was located. Unlike some of the other Harappan cities, which were divided into two parts, Dholavira was divided into three parts. So, unlike that means some of other Harappan cities, which were divided into two parts, it was divided into two parts. Dholavira was divided into three parts, boys. And each part was surrounded with massive stone walls with entrances through gateways. Dholavira here you see was divided into three parts, and each part it was surrounded with massive stone walls and with entrances through gateways. There was also a large open area in the settlement where public ceremonies could be held. So settlement the place where people used to live. There was when there was also a large open area. So in that settlement, public ceremonies could be held. Public ceremonies could be and public programs can be done there. Other finds include large letters of the Harappan script that were carved out of white stone and perhaps inlaid in wood. So other finds they include what? There that means large letters of Harappan scripts which were carved out of white stone and perhaps inlaid in wood. This is a unique find as generally Harappan writing has been found on small objects such as shells. It is unique here. Same with other. Find that means as generally Harappan writing, which has been found on small objects such as shells. The city of Lothal stood beside a tributary of the Sabarmati in Gujarat, close to the Gulf of Khambat. See, the city of Lothal, it stood where? Beside that tributary of the Sabarmati. Beside that means the branch of Sabarmati in Gujarat. And it was close to the Gulf of Khambat. It was situated near areas where raw materials such as semi-precious stones were easily available. So it was situated near those areas where raw materials like shimi precious stones were easily available. This was an important center for making objects out of stone, shell, and metal. It was an important center for making things or objects out of stone, shell, and metal. There was also a storehouse in the city. Storehouse, where that means goods or anything are kept. Many seals and shilling, the impression of seals on clay. Impression means an idea, feeling, or opinion about something or someone, especially one formed without conscious thoughts or on the basis of little evidence. Of seals on clay were found in this storehouse. So storehouse means that is like go down. There were many seals and sealing were found in that storehouse or go down. Boys, let us see towards the to the right margin of your book. A dockyard at Lothal. This huge tank may have been a dockyard where boats and ships came in from the sea and through the river channel. Goods were probably loaded and unloaded here. So from here, ships or boats can carry or bring goods up to that storehouse. So it was done from that means this dockyard at Lothal. A building that was found there was probably a workshop for making beads, pieces of stones, half-made beads, tools for bead making, and finished beads have all been found here. So a building was found there where probably a workshop for making beads, that means pieces of stones, half-made beads, tools for beads making, and finished beads have all been found here. Let us see these shields and shilling. Shields may have been used to stamp bags or packets containing goods that were sent from one place to another. So shields we use for that purpose. And after a bag was closed or tied, a layer of wet clay was applied on the knot and the seal was pressed on it. So something that means at present is also we are practicing. So after a bag was closed or tight, when pick up that means a layer of wet clay was applied there on the knot, and seal was pressed on it. The impression of the seal is known as a sealing. This called that means sealing. If the sealing was intact, means without damaging it, without that means any disturbing it, one could be sure that the goods had arrived safely. So if that means sealing is um, in well manner, so one could be sure that the goods had arrived safely. Seals are used even today. Find out what they are used for. So seals, that means these are used today also, especially that means for sending any goods, boys say through post office or anything. These sealing are used. The mystery of the end. Mystery means something that is difficult or impossible to understand or explain. Around 3900 years ago, we find the beginning of a major change. Around 3900 years ago, we find the beginning of changes, major changes. People stopped living in many of the cities. They stopped to live in many cities. Writing, shields, and weights were no longer used. Okay, writing, shields, and weights, these were no longer in use. Raw materials brought from long distances became rare. So, raw materials to bring from far places, it was a rare case. Sometimes it used to bring, not always. In Mohenjo-daro, we find that garbage piled up on the streets. The drainage system broke down and new, less impressive houses were built even over the streets. So in Mohenjo-daro's period, we find that garbage, it was piled up on the streets. The drainage system broke down and new, less impressive houses were built even over the streets. Why did all this happen? We are not sure about that. Some scholars suggest that the rivers dried up. Others suggest that there was deforestation. Deforestation means cutting down of trees. So, some possibilities it has given here, boys. This could have happened because fuel was required for baking bricks and for smelting copper ores. So, you see here, some scholars, genius person, they suggested what? That the rivers dried up, no water was there. Others, they suggest that there was deforestation. This could have happened because fuel, source of power, that means was required for baking bricks and for smelting copper ores. Smelting means the extraction of metal from its ore by a process involving heating and melting. Besides grazing by large herds of cattle, sheep and goat may have destroyed the green cover. In some areas, there were floods, but none of these reasons can explain the end of all the cities. So, none of these reasons can explain that the end of all the cities. Flooding or a river drying up would have had an effect in only some areas. Flooding or drying of river it would have had an effect in only, that means, some particular area. It appears as if the rulers lost control. So it appears what? As if the rulers lost the control. In any case, the effects of the change are quite clear. So in any case, that means the effects of the change are quite clear here. Sites in Sindh and West Punjab, present day Pakistan, were abandoned, while many people moved into newer, smaller settlements to the east and the south. Here, sites in Sindh and West Punjab, presently Pakistan, that area were abandoned. Abandoned means having been deserted or left, while many people, they moved into newer or smaller settlements to the east and the south. New cities emerged about 1400 years later. So new cities, it emerged, it existed about 1400 years later. After that, you will read about them in chapter number 5 and 8. So about them you will read in your chapter number 5 and 8. And apart from these, boys, see here elsewhere. So you must read this, okay? Then uh, it may be helpful for you, okay? So that's up to here for today, all of you. Thank you all.